is being live streamed and it will be taped, so you all can watch yourself again some other day. My name is Jay Ward, and
Devin Corbin.
we're here to co-moderate this event. We're starting off with the school board candidates. We're going to give each candidate time to talk to you and tell them why they should be considering your vote. And then it will be open up for questions and answers. We'd like all the questions to come through the moderator, so there's no direct back and forth with the candidates. It's not a debate. It's to meet and greet, and for you to ask the pertinent questions you need answered from them. Okay? And we'll start off by, we're going to do it in order of their names on the sample, on the ballot. And remember that the election is June 11th. Early voting is already started. And the voting will be from 8 to 8 on June 11th. So we want everybody to, and I'm sure all of you are going to vote, but tell your friends to get out there and vote also. So we'll start with Christina Gardner.
Yep. Thanks. Thank you all for coming. My name is CJ Gardner. As it says, side note, my name is actually Christina. It'll be on the ballot as Christina, nobody has ever called me Christina except for my high school guidance counselor and my doctor's office, but on the ballot it'll be Christina. My husband and I moved to Acton 11 years ago, and I have 2 children who are in the Acton school. I have been on the school committee for about 3.5 years. I was asked to fill in the last 6 months of a term for somebody who had resigned because they couldn't make the meetings anymore. And I've learned so much from the other women on the school committee. It's been really amazing to learn kind of the behind the scenes of the school. I've been on the PTG for 3 years, most recently as vice president. So I got to see kind of the fun side and then the kind of nuts and bolts and how everything runs with the budgets and the policies and everything. I was also on the Acton Public Library Board of Directors for 9 years, and also on the Board of Directors for the Acton Shapley Historical Society for about 4 years as well. So I love being able to serve this community. Yeah, thank you so much for coming, everyone. Hopefully we'll all be able to answer your questions.
Hey, good evening. My name is Andrew Johnson. My family and I are Air Force veterans. We moved here about 4 years ago to raise our children and retire. We found this community, fell in love with it. All through those kind of trying years, as we all remember, the Acton Elementary School, that whole school community was nothing short of miraculous and honestly a wonder, and I was in awe of how well everything was executed. After attending a few school committee meetings, the collaboration and how everyone is able to work together in order to further and make Acton Elementary School truly a gem within this town is remarkable. Now that I'm retired and full-time dad, I'm looking for other ways to apply my talents, I guess. Basically, my skills lie basically in policy making, implementation, execution, those types of things. Negotiating budgets, on the governmental side and everything like that. I believe my direct operations experience in the military can directly translate to that mode. Not so much the teaching aspect or the administration aspect, but more so in that committee arena, okay? And that's why I've decided to put my name in here. Other than that, you can find me either helping out with some of the rec teams, coaching. I got 2 sons, 2nd grade and kindergarten respectively, so I have a vested interest, obviously, in the well-being of the school for at least the next 8 years, and would love to do anything I can to see it succeed. So, thank you.
Hello, my name is Catherine Johnson. I am running to be on the school board committee. I am new to town, but I am married to Malcolm Phillips and his family, and They've grown up in Acton. This will be my forever home. We have 2 children, one that attend elementary school, one in 3rd grade, and one in 1st. Plus, we will have a daughter that will be in preschool in 2 short years. I'm a very involved parent. I want to be on the school committee to be part of my kids' education. I just moved from Indiana, where I helped parents get rid of masks. My kids did peaceful protests, and my kids went to some school board meetings with me to get involved as well. I helped 5 other schools with various topics. Parents' rights are very important to me. I want to be transparent. I want to be a valuable member to the community, and if you want to make a difference, you should run for something.
Hi everyone. I have mine because I cannot remember things. So I'm Elizabeth Kittredge. Everyone calls me Liz, and I'm running for school board. 3 words that best describe me, I think, are reliable, determined, and hardworking. I've lived in Acton for 30 years. I myself attended Acton Elementary School for 5th through 8th grade after moving here from Long Island, New York. I graduated from Wells High School. I have an associate's degree in applied science with fashion merchandising. I received the Award of Excellence in Fashion Merchandising at graduation. I've worked for Old Navy for 7 years. I started in logistics and took in shipments, planned for new merchandise, and helped manage the logistics staff. I worked my way up to be the assistant store manager, and I was in charge of hiring, making the schedule for a staff of 60 people. I managed sales. I did store audits and customer service. After having my son in 2011, I decided to stay home, and I helped my husband with all his accounting for his plumbing and heating business since 2008. So I have 2 sons, 9 and 12. They're in 3rd and 7th grade. A couple of important facts I'd like to tell you guys is I like to ask questions. I think having parents on the school board is helpful, so that way that we can give feedback on what we see happening in the school. Our special education department is very important, and I will support any recommendations that the special ed director gives. I have personal experience seeing how they work to help kids get the right resources that they need, and I think that makes Acton so special because no one is left behind. I think small class sizes should be a priority. The budget is very important to keep the costs down where we can, but not sacrifice in areas that need attention. Making parents and staff feel comfortable to voice their opinions and concerns is important to me. Making Acton the best experience possible for each student is also important to me. I would describe myself as an open and honest person who doesn't believe in misleading other people and tries to be fair in everything that I do. I look forward to helping the students at Acton Elementary School get the best out of the school, and I look forward to helping wherever I am needed on the committee. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Terry Minahan. On the ballot, I will be known as Teresa. Very uncomfortable about that, but my name is Teresa Minahan. So some of you know me as an entertainer, but really that's not a huge part of me. I began my earlier life as a nurse. I was hired as a nurse for a special ed student at the Acton Elementary School. I thought I would keep that job for approximately 2 years, ended up being 7 years. Loved being a special ed tech for my student. From there, I became the liaison for special ed students from leaving the Acton Elementary School, going to the Wells High School, so they would have a middle person to see them through between divisions. From there, I continued with being a literacy specialist to regular ed students and special ed students. And I went back and got my degree in teaching, and I had every plan to come back to the Acton Elementary School after 1 year, but was hired by another school and took a brief hiatus of 10 years to go and teach first grade for another school. As I was teaching at the private school I was working at, I was still involved in the Acton Elementary School because my 3 kids were raised and went through the Acton Elementary School and Wells High School as well as Berwick Academy. And it's because of the voucher system that one of my kids took up with Berwick Academy and was involved with that only because of the voucher system were we able to make that happen. So we were blessed in that fashion. From there, I just continued. I had a daycare for a while because I wanted to be an at-home mom. And I left teaching because I had a family member who was ill, needed to take care of them. So since retiring, I've been involved in the Acton School as much as I possibly can be. Some of you probably still have the Gingerbread Man song stuck in your head, and you're welcome. And currently, I just put together community events for adults and kids as well. I have a home office called Life Stage Landing, and that's where people come, gather, land, and then fly away into doing other events and other fun community activities. So I hope you'll join us there whenever you see those ads. But my full-time job right now that many of you don't know, I'm an end-of-life doula. So it's come full circle for me that I work with death and dying patients. So that's my full-time gig, but my passion is truly kids. It's always been kids. I've loved, just being around them, doing what they need, not just what they would want, but what they need quite often. And so I hope you'll vote me onto this committee because I feel like I have an awful lot to add to this committee. I come with no agenda, only to do the good work of the school committee. And I'm just trying to build on the good work that's already been done with this committee. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, and thank you, audience. So what we'll probably do, we'll go to the next person. So Andrew, you'll start with the questions, and then we'll just keep on doing that. So everybody goes first for something.
Sounds great.
So, questions from the audience? Yes.
Hi. My wife's with me. I got home here. So our friends in Augusta basically are quite proud of the fact that they're funding education at 55% of the total cost. They brag about it a lot. I look at our budget in Acton, it doesn't look like we're getting 55%. I would like to see if our candidates could explain what the heck is happening with this big 55% deal. Does anybody know? Can anybody talk about it?
Seems like a very difficult question, but
I'm not going to shoot from the hip. I'm not familiar with what Augusta's doing in terms of their how they're balancing their budget. All right, obviously, I would imagine. Right, a lot of it has to do, and I know the current members of the board are, could probably answer the question better than I could, considering that they look at it on a week-to-week basis. But in terms of budget constraints, in terms of balancing what the needs of the school are, what the overall objectives are of the school, and what resources that we need to achieve those objectives, I know, actually, having been to several of the meetings, that line by line, those items are looked at, viewed, scrutinized to a T. And I think we can have a lot of confidence in the board that every single dollar that's being spent out of Acton that goes towards the school is well spent. Okay, is not there is not a frivolous thing that I've seen in the budget, and I think the proof is in the pudding, considering just how well our students rank statewide, and then when they move on into high school, and just how well they perform against their hundreds of peers. And so, what other towns do or don't do, we can take. Good ideas. It's always good to collaborate and to to kind of analyze what other folks are doing, take the good and the bad, but then also try to apply and remember, our own personal constraints. Those are things that I'm going to look at pretty heavily and see if I can't come up with some good ideas to make things, even if not better, more efficient moving forward in the years to come, which will then open up more of the budget for growth, because the town is growing, and that needs to also be taken into account. So, thanks.
Yes, sir.
For Mr. Johnson,
Yeah.
your background is the military?
Yes.
Do we want to
Oh, I'm
let
sorry.
everyone to answer that question?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're going to let everyone to answer the first question. Yep.
Everybody,
Catherine?
We gotta move the, out to the X. People are complaining that they can't see who's asking questions and stuff on the live stream.
Right, on the next question, yeah.
go up to the
Yeah.
X.
Sorry about that.
Catherine, yes.
About the budget, I'm very new to the budget, like how to do budgets. But I did go to the budget meeting and they did break everything down on a piece of paper, and I appreciate that. And I don't know, I'm so new to it, but I'll do my best. It's not my strong point, but I'll do my best.
Yes, same with me. Obviously, I don't have a lot of experience with budgets, but I have an accounting sort of background of numbers and looking at numbers in different ways, and I would definitely put a lot of effort into seeing where anything that can get cut, but not make sure that the kids get everything that they need is the most important thing, I think.
Ditto, no. What I would like to add to that, and I know the panel agrees, is that we're thrilled with Acton Elementary School that we're able to have our specials all the time. There are schools who just simply don't have specials, so we are very, very lucky to have that. As for the budget, I'm like the majority of us who we might know our family budget, we might know our budgets at work. I know budgeting mostly through my teaching days, where I had this set amount of money and I knew this was all I was going to get, and so I needed to spend it wisely. What I see with this committee right now is that they're doing a fine job looking at the line-by-line items, and I would love to be a part of that. Just to continue that good work and put my spin on things. If I have anything to improve, I will do my best. But most of all, I would love to just bring my open-mindedness first to the committee about budgeting, knowing that there's experience on the committee at this time, and then work with that. So, thank you.
We've been on the school committee for 3.5 years. I've gone through 4 budgets. The school committee, the superintendent, the finance director work very, very hard to make sure that the budget is as slim as possible with still being able to provide absolutely everything that our students and staff need. We work very hard with the Warrant and Finance Committee, and they do challenge us on lots of things. They ask lots of great questions. And we're always able to answer their questions so that by the time we get to town meeting, the budget is confirmed by the school committee and supported by the Warrant and Finance Committee. And if you guys know them, they are tough. They don't just roll over and accept what we give them. So they are always happy with our budgets.
Thank you. Question?
Could we please?
I already answered that.
Yeah.
Additional question.
Yeah, so the next beginning question would be to Christine.
Catherine.
Catherine, I'm sorry.
Catherine. Okay,
Okay.
I do not understand your rotation, because from Mrs. Johnson all the way through got to Andrew, but he didn't.
You went first.
He started.
And you'd speak up
Yeah, he was the first one to answer.
So I introduced myself first, and then everybody else introduced themselves.
He answered.
You introduced, I'm
Mr.
sorry, I
Mass.
didn't hear an answer as to,
Can you, no.
I'm not
No,
about,
yes.
I'm not particularly, Mr. Johnson, I'm a retired military man, that we all heard. What does he bring to the school? What did you do in the military? That was really my question. What do they bring to the school? And from their answers, I think the others understood that. So if I'm out of order, okay, but that's what.
So your question is,
What
what does each individual bring to the table?
And the ladies answered that, but I don't believe Mr. Andrews had the opportunity to answer that. If I'm wrong, I apologize, and I'll see.
I don't like that. I mean, it's up to you.
He can answer it.
No,
So if you have a follow-up question.
Everybody answered the first question. Now you get to ask your question of everyone as well. But we're just going to start with Christine.
Okay.
Going to start first. So go ahead and ask your question.
My question is, I'll rephrase it. What skill do you bring to the school committee? Do you have a skill in, Liz, I'm not picking on you, but Liz has an accounting background. Are any of you negotiators? It is, and again, Christina can tell you, it's a whole picture. And I would like to know how you feel you fit into that picture. If that
Great
makes
question.
sense.
Yep.
Thank you.
Catherine, do you understand? So it's just asking what your life experience and what you bring to the table.
I feel like being a parent helps a lot. I want to be part of my kids' education. I want to help with parents' rights. I did a lot in Indiana. I helped get rid of masks. I helped 5 other schools with anything they needed, various topics, and they're my children, so I really just want to be part of their education.
Liz?
Yes, and I think my background with working at Old Navy and dealing with a lot of, I had to do audits and I had different, my brains, budgets that I had to keep in too, so that way I could, like I had to order supplies for the store to make sure we had enough bags and everything. So that definitely helps. And then honestly, doing my books for my husband's business and just looking at line items, making sure things are organized as much as possible and make things clear for the budget or anything like that. And yeah, I think.
You're fine, take a breath.
The question is.
What do you say we bring? So, I love you, it's okay. What special skills do I bring? I bring the skills as an educator, having managed a budget. I bring skills as a negotiator and a liaison for the middle school students going into high school. As you might know, it's a different culture heading from the Acton School into any high school. It's a culture shift. And so that was my place there, was to be the bridge, the liaison. And that's what I would like to bring to the school committee, is to be a bridge between parents, cohorts, faculty, whatever, but to be a bridge, an open-minded bridge, to be sitting on that school committee. So there's transparency, there's compassion, and I believe that's first and foremost what I would bring. I have other experiences with the Acton School. I have what feels like a lifetime of experience with my kids having gone all through, and now I have a granddaughter in the Acton School. So I feel as though I have a good feel for how the school runs, for the wonderful administration that we have, and for this existing committee. I feel like I have a good idea of the pulse of all of it, and I can be that transparent figure on that committee. It's not to say that the rest is not, but that's what I would bring.
So one of my big strengths is being able to be a team player, which is very important on the school committee. We work very closely together, just within the school committee and also with warrant and finance and with the community as well. I actually got my current full-time job because when my department was laid off at my last job, I put it out there, does anybody have any jobs available? And someone who I volunteered with at the school knew I didn't have the technical capabilities, but knew I was able to learn and said, I know you work well with others, you'll be a great fit for our team. So I got my job because I'm a good team player. I am also a proven leader. I had a colleague who went out on maternity leave, and I was able to fill in for her as the project delivery manager for the past 8 months for our projects where we launched a bunch of new websites and was able to work with our clients and our other agencies that we collaborate with. So those are both very important things, I believe, that people in the school committee should be able to do.
All right. All right. So, yeah. So, what did my military experience allow me to what translates into this? Would translate into this new role in the school committee. I was in operations. I was a flyer in the Air Force. Needless to say, details matter. I am extremely detail oriented when it comes to looking at every element, all right, that goes into a specific, try not to use the term, a specific objective, I'll just say a specific objective, and making sure that no effort is wasted and that the end goal is always, never gets lost in the minutia either. So my experience lends itself to that end. When I was not doing operations, I was working on my education degree as well. So I got an advanced degree in education while I was in the service, instructional design specifically, and so I have a passion for education generally, and with that, those two items combined, I think I can apply those things in the school committee role. I have negotiated budgets. I've collaborated with multiple parties on more than one occasion in order to set some type of directive or implement some type of new policy or write a new policy to replace or improve an existing one. All of this experience, I believe, can directly translate into the good work that the Acton School Committee does. And I'd like to try to give it a try and apply it there.
Thank you. Question?
Yes, Gail Long. My question is, right now with the school shootings and what have you that does transpire, the school is doing awesome. They're putting the bulletproof glass in. They've been, doing all these different trainings and what have you. And my question is, because where they're being so proactive, what do each of you bring to the table? What are your feelings about this? Because this is a very serious area of concern to parents, knowing that the safety of our students. Thank you.
Yeah, I am definitely, that's a huge concern, and I know the school has gone through ALICE training with Officer Jordine from Stanford Police Department, and he, I think that that's helped the teachers feel safe and different ways to look at things, and I think that it's a huge thing that the school should look at, and we're going to be, I think there should be a outside the front door, there should be like, I know right now you go into the first set of doors and you ring the door, and I think there's just other things we can do to make the school safer, having to ring outside instead of going even into that first like vestibule area, and any training that we can get for our teachers and staff, even if like parent information nights about safety, anything to make the kids safe at school, for sure, is very important.
I think first and foremost, we need to make sure that the parents feel confident leaving their kids at the Acton Elementary School. And I think today, they do feel confident because of all the pre-planning that's happened and all of the training that has happened. Yet, as, you know, bad things happen, and as these people who do these bad things come up with new bad things, we're thinking ahead of them. We're trying to keep 2 steps ahead of them. And so this training that's being done, very, very helpful. I can remember when our kids were, Liz, you were in Carol's class, and we thought it was a big deal when we would have an evacuation, and we would all walk up the road, and we thought, oh, we're all pretty safe up here, and that was great. And we thought we were far and away much better off than any other school. And little did we know that, you know, our little Acton school needed to grow, and has grown by leaps and bounds over these years. It's an amazing effort that's happened. So going forward, yes, I would love to be able to continue on with training and be able to look past Acton, Sanford, and look beyond and see what other schools are doing. And but I think the most important thing is to keep parents in the loop with what we're looking at. I think that's very, very important, because we're always afraid for our kids. So, yeah.
So as we've seen, we hate to admit it, but things like that can happen anywhere. So the school committee and the administration has tried to be proactive and do as much as we can to, if something did happen, stop it from getting worse, potentially. The superintendent / principal has recently this year moved his office to be in sightline of the front door, so he can, when he's in his office, he can see if someone was coming to the front door. Hopefully they wouldn't be that dumb to actually come to the front door, but if he sees something, he can, you know, get things in motion. He has we have radios, totally emergency radios. They're not used to call people on the playground. They're only used for emergencies, and every classroom has one, even the empty classrooms, so that if people need to go shelter in the empty classrooms, they have an emergency radio as well. We are in the process of moving that doorbell to outside of the first door, so no one will be able to get into the first door unless you are rung in through the front office. We are replacing the rest of, there are, I think, 4 exterior doors in the building that are still wooden doors. So we are replacing those. That was in the budget this year that passed. We are also putting bulletproof, or not bulletproof, but shatter-resistant film on the glass doors. All the exterior glass doors will get that film. So, and I think also the library windows, because those are some big windows there. So that if something happened to the glass, it would be like a windshield where it doesn't shatter and break, it just kind of like stays put. And it's just to provide an extra couple of seconds for someone to notice that something is happening and get help, just so they can't, you know, bust through a window. And like others have said, the ALICE training that is happening for all the students and all the staff just helps them feel more comfortable and gives them more options in case something ever did happen. So I feel like we are doing as well as we can with unpredictable situations.
Yeah, as a parent, right? It's this is front and center, as you see in the news all the time. And so as we continue to look, I think Acton's doing a great job. I think everything that CJ just mentioned is well above and beyond with the status quo and the standard of what's out there. How do we resist being complacent once all these great new features are in? How do we resist being complacent? I think it comes down to, quite frankly, the great community that we are in. I can tell you that I can recognize basically, I would say a greater majority of the people who belong in and around Acton School, and I'm pretty sure the parents on the panel can probably say the same thing. And if someone doesn't look right, like, we know it's such a small school, you know the teachers, you know the staff, and you know a lot of the other parents as well. And so that community involvement, that transparency, that encouragement of getting people to say something to the administration if they don't think something looks right or whatnot, and then having the protocols in place to address whatever that item is, no matter how minor, will continue to keep us vigilant, all right, so that we can keep our children safe moving into the future as we continue to face different types of threats. And God forbid, but I think that community building and that transparency is going to go a long way, coupled with all the implementations of the new upgrades and technology.
When I was in Lowell, Indiana, after about that Texas shooting, I called up my superintendent and I said, what are we doing to protect these kids? And he made a town hall meeting with the sheriffs. And it was like a parent-teacher night, and I thought that was the best. The police officers, like the detectives, they all had a teacher's night, and all the parents could ask questions. And I like that a lot, because there are children, and maybe there's grants out there. In Indiana, they had these grants, these like little door stopper things, and they had all the doors locked. And even if it was inconvenient, they had the doors locked, just to protect the kids. I mean, we could do that, and there's this program, the Sandy Hook program. I don't know a lot about it because I left Indiana. Maybe we could look into the Sandy Hook thing where they train this at the schools. It's very new, and I don't know a lot about it. I wish I did, but I would love to look into that. And maybe we could have like a town hall meeting night with the sheriffs and the police, and maybe we could all just figure what we could do for help with the school. Maybe we could all get together and help.
Thank you.
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
I got a softball, it's okay. So, we went to the literacy fair earlier today, and I got a drink of water out of the new water filling machines there. And I noticed it said 10,087 something water bottles saved, just in the little water cooler by the gym, since you guys installed that. I thought that was pretty cool. So, along that lines, I look at what Acton has done so far with the ALICE training, the AEDs, the defibrillators, the film on the glass, etc. So my question is, what is a new program or a piece of equipment or some upgrade to the school that you think would benefit to help ensure that Acton kids remain competitive when they leave AES? Because you see a lot of top 10 Sanford kids graduating that started in Acton. You see a lot of top 20. And Acton kids tend to land mostly in the upper percentage. So my question to all of you is, what can we do to avoid the complacency factor to, progress? What's something you'd like to see?
And you're first.
Okay, thank you. For me, when you were talking about saving, plastic bottles, for instance, the first thing that jumps out to me is how much paper is used at the school. How much paper is used at any given business on any given day. So that always jumped out to me, the amount of packets that are being presented to students. Is there a way that we can do a little better with that? Anyway, that's about the plastic bottles and all of that environmental stuff. But as far as keeping our kids competitive, I think it's really important that the creative thinking aspect of life needs to be driven home with our kids. Bye. So we have our specials. We love our specials. We love, especially anytime they are given a chance to move, right? They're given a chance to move in music. They're given a chance to move in their athletic programs and their gym classes. And with their art, they can talk while they're creating art. It inspires conversation. Our STEM program is another way that it elevates our kids in a way that they can feel safe in how they're creating and how they're bringing things to their friends, to their community. One thing that I would truly appreciate, and I brought it up with the parent-teacher group, is that I would love to have an entrepreneurial program. I wanted to have a fair, and I think they're thinking of doing this sometime next year, so don't steal the idea. But it's an entrepreneurial fair where kids get to, they might just sell cupcakes, they might just sell lemonade, but they might build something, they might create something, and then part of that brings in marketing and all that goes on with marketing and the transparency around how they're doing it, how they're accessing their materials. So I would love to see more creative thinking, more creative talking, and I would, as a school committee member, be completely in favor of something like that. But I think that that would be helpful with our kids going forward, because those kids who are going forward are not all in-the-box thinkers. They're out-of-the-box thinkers, and we need to continue to encourage that. Thank you.
So I love our little school. I think it's amazing. When my husband, that was my husband that asked the question, in case you didn't know, when we were looking to move up here to Maine from Massachusetts, my in-laws, his dad was a music teacher in Sanford for 30-something years, and his mom taught in Scarborough and Noble, and they said, you need to move to Acton. Acton has the best school around. But that being said, I think we can always do a little bit better. The program that I would absolutely love to see our students have is foreign language education. That is pretty much the one thing that I can think of that we don't have that I would love to see. Ideally, it would be for all the grades, because I think everybody knows at this point that the younger you start a language, the easier it is to pick up languages in the future. I lost my train of thought. But so if we can't do it for all the grades, maybe first we start with middle school, because then by the time they get to high school, they have just a little bit of knowledge when they get to their high school classes. My middle school in New York, I'm also from Long Island, had 7th and 8th grade, so that by the time you were in high school, you'd finished one high school year of class already. So I think that would be fantastic for our almost high schoolers to be able to finish a high school class, and that way when they're in high school they could possibly take AP classes or advanced conversation classes to earn college credit by the time they're at the end of high school. So yeah, French, Spanish, doesn't really matter. I think they should learn another language.
Starting in pre-K.
I would love that. I absolutely love it. Yes.
I concur. Kind of building on, a little bit off of Terry's note with respect to the entrepreneurial program. Once again, I'm a big believer in community-based learning. So a community-based project in which the students can apply the skills that they're learning in class to perhaps a real-world problem here in town. All right, collaboration with some of the elements that make the town actually run, so that it doesn't seem like there is a clear-cut distinction and line between, okay, there's me in school and I'm in the classroom and I'm learning all these things, but I don't entirely understand why I'm learning all these things, but I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to do it, versus what the real-world application. We have enough businesses here in town, and that I think we could lobby, for lack of a better term, them to perhaps volunteer a little bit of time to talk to the kids, come up with an actual problem that perhaps that they're facing, and have the kids apply and hit multiple learning objectives, be it in science, math, or social studies, and then see how the things that they're learning directly apply, right here in their town. It doesn't have to be some big, world global problem that they have to try to address right here. They can address problems right here, and there's some smart kids out there, and I think we'd be surprised to see what they can come up with. And I think that would give them a great opportunity to kind of flex those muscles, build some confidence moving forward as they continue in their education.
Me? I really like, my kids really like the specials. Maybe we could add some more, like maybe like a gardening club, maybe some more like life skills that are for kids that maybe don't want to just be a banker or something. Maybe give them more variety, see more life skills, maybe sewing class, cooking after school. They could learn a lot, life skills.
I think as an Acton student a long time ago, going into a huge high school, that's like the hardest transition, I think, for the Acton kids, is going from such a small school to such a huge school like Sanford High School. I think maybe if there's some way, I think it would be, and it would help our students, especially our middle school students, is integrating them with the Sanford Middle School somehow. I don't know if we could do, like, instead of them doing their study hall at the end of the class, that they could go to Sanford one day a week just to like get to know the kids, like maybe more towards the end of the year, but getting them integrated with some of the Sanford Middle School kids, I think would be really helpful, because it's kind of scary going from such a small school to such a huge school, not knowing a lot of faces, because the Acton kids are just here and there and mostly all Sanford kids. So I think trying to integrate them with Sanford Middle School a little bit would be helpful. And I also agree with the foreign language. I think that also would benefit our students going into Sanford High School, is knowing some foreign language throughout the whole school, middle school, elementary, whatever we can get. But those are the two things.
Thank you.
Another question. With drugs running so rampant over the United States, they used to years ago have the DARE program. They no longer do that. Would you folks find a way to come up with some sort of a program to help fight this drug use? Because kids in Acton right now, some kids are doing drugs. And with nothing in the school that really helps fight this crisis that we have. I'd just like to know what you folks' feelings are on that. Thank you.
I think I'm up.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's awful, and I think something like a DARE program would be fantastic in our schools. In our school. In the meantime, we do have, I'm absolutely blanking on the name of the drug.
Narcan.
Narcan, there we go, thank you. So we actually have Narcan in our school. It's by the AED down by the ramp that goes down to the gym. We were asked to adopt a policy to allow that in our school by the school nurse. She gets it for free through a grant. So our school is not just a school, it's also a meeting place. We have town meeting there. The rec uses the building and the fields. So while we hope that our children are not doing that, we hope that our children's families are not doing that, we don't know what other towns are coming in for a basketball game. So it's always better to be safe and have that around, just like we have an AED, just in case something happens. We hope no one ever uses it, just like the Narcan, but it's there just in case it's needed ever.
Yeah, drugs are bad, right? And so, basically, being a product of the DARE program so many years ago. Having looked at the DARE program quite a bit, it basically did the opposite of what it was intended to do. It kind of exposed kids too early to some drugs that in literature that they may not have been exposed to otherwise. And so that was one of the reasons why it was defunded. I'm not a huge, I would not be a huge proponent of implementing something similar to a DARE program back into Acton School. However, when it comes to items of public health, taking it as a public health type of policy and initiative and collaboration with the town itself, literature mostly for parents, okay, that is available in the school, using perhaps the nurse as a point of contact to be smart, basically to be the one smart up on the Narcan, right, as well as what the current issues are here in the greater Acton, Shapley, Sanford area, which there are some issues, and that being able to get that information out to parents so that parents can address these really, really difficult topics with their kids on an individual basis and kind of get some buy-in. I would be open to basically kind of, once again, right, bringing the heads together, community-based, parental-based, getting together and trying to figure out so that we know that there's always a support network at the among us all. Basically, hey, you know, I encountered this. I heard so-and-so is doing this. You know, how did you address it? I had this question from my kid. You know, I wasn't entirely sure how to answer it. You know, do you have any material or can point me to something so that I can talk to them about it? So I'd be more a fan along those lines, getting that information out, identifying a POC, as opposed to implementing a formal education program within the school itself.
In Indiana, we had like this DARE type week where like the school they brought in like people to do like the beer goggle things, and they had like a whole week about it, and I thought that was great. But the parents do need to be more educated. Maybe we could get more literature about that, because you could ask your kid if they do drugs and they say no. Well, maybe there's literature for the parents to look for signs and stuff. Try to make it fun, like the DARE week, where they do like activities about what drugs can do, and maybe they can show age-appropriate videos, and they can do like assemblies on it. And I think the parents definitely need to be involved to pick out appropriate material and just try to make it educational and fun and get everybody involved.
So I know right now in the middle school, they do give out surveys to the kids. They don't like put their names on it or anything, but that ask them like, do they do drugs? And there's a whole list of questions. And us as parents never get to those answers. Like they tell us that they're going to be doing this questionnaire. And I think it would be good if they compiled those answers and shared those with the parents, just so that way we know, all right, like this, out of the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, like there are kids that are doing these things, because like you might be naive and think that that's not happening, but it probably is. But even just giving those results out to the parents, I think would be important. And I don't think we need DARE in our school for like a full-time thing, but maybe doing some kind of a week or month of just going to classrooms, age-appropriate things, of just telling the kids about the dangers of using drugs and bad things. And then also, I know the social worker goes into classrooms and talks about certain issues, and that could be something that she brings up when she goes into the classrooms, just making sure that the students are aware of like bad things, and that's something that we can use her for. And she could even have meetings with the parents to just go over certain issues that are potentially in our school, or what we have to look forward to of going to Sanford High School. Yeah, those are my ideas.
I like those ideas, by the way. But I would want to call on the school counselor. I think that's really important, because the school counselor is there with the kids. They know her face, or they know that that's a safe person to be able to have a conversation with. Likewise, I think it's really important that the parents are able to openly discuss with the kids what the kids might be learning about at school. So for me, as a teacher, quite often, you'll see where I'm going with this. With math, for instance, we would introduce a certain skill. In September, we would introduce a certain skill. And then some kids got it and some kids didn't. So we would bring it back in December. Some kids would get it, some kids wouldn't. And so it's that spiral effect. And so I feel when we're talking about drugs, alcohol, life skills, any of these very important things, I think it needs to be a cyclical way to do it. And it doesn't necessarily need to be an in-school event. It can be a guest speaker, it can be a guest group coming in to have those discussions, but also incorporating our nurse, our school counselor, and then all of the adults that are around these kids who are mentors and teachers to them, so that the kids know that they have a safe place. If something is happening that they've seen on the periphery, they can bring it to safe people in their schools. So again, I think transparency is important, but I do think it's a cyclical event that needs to happen rather than a one-time event. Uh-oh.
Good evening, Seth Hurd, Town of Acton. Mr. Moderator, the main statutes actually give a very narrow definition of the roles or responsibilities of the school committee and each school committee member. Fiscal responsibility, risk management, and the oversight of their one and only employee. I wonder if each candidate could speak and demonstrate their definition and understanding of what roles and responsibilities are those of management and what roles and responsibilities are those of the committee member, and how they will each conduct themselves when presented with a conflict or a request that they are passionate about but is out of their scope of responsibility.
Great question.
All right.
Do y'all understand?
Yeah, I might have to, yeah, I'm gonna give that one, I'll give that a shot.
Give it down to a half an hour.
Half an hour, all right, take out your notebooks. Okay. Yeah, know your lane, right? Know your lane, okay? You hear that a lot. There are multiple parties that need to collaborate in order to effectively execute the mission of the school, all right, which is to deliver the highest quality education to our students to prepare them for the world outside. All right, the school committee's role, as I see it, is to write the policies and in collaboration, okay, but ultimately they have the general say of both the budget and the policies and how they're to be implemented, deliver those items to the operators, okay, and then allow the operators to use their expertise to implement the best way they know how. After that, it's kind of a sit back and wait and evaluate the progress and evaluate the situation as it moves forward and see if objectives are being met. If they are, fantastic, all right? How can we replicate that, all right? And that needs to be the reevaluation. If they're not being met, then we need to see where the gap is. Is it a gap in the policy? Is it a gap in the budget? Is it a gap in understanding? After we've exhausted all those items, all right, then you can basically go down the line of, you know, more and more dramatic actions that can be taken. But ultimately, that is how I see the lanes being drawn between the committee and the school administrators and the execution of the delivery of education to the students.
I went to a bunch of school board meetings in Lowell, Indiana, and I found out the school board makes policies. They get to like vote on like the new principal and things like that. I believe we are kind of the voice for the parents. They come to us with comments, questions, concerns. We just listen and we get to vote on policies and we, you know, raise our hands and vote, and however it wins, and we just try to be the voice for the parents.
Yes, I think the most important thing of being a school board member is being a voice for the students. And obviously the budget is in with being a school committee member and policy. But the most important is being the voice for the students. And what was the second part of the question? Sorry, can I ask that?
The roles of the school board versus the roles of the supervisors and
Yeah,
the
didn't you say
implementing.
something about if something was brought to your attention? That's the part I was asking about.
Oh, okay.
How do you deal with
If there was a
conflict?
conflict between.
Conflict, thank you,
Yeah,
okay?
something you're
Yes,
passionate about.
Yes, if there's something that you're passionate about, which I think the school board knows that I have been passionate about a couple of things, is just making sure that you're giving the task to somebody in charge that can deal with whatever the issue that comes up as, and making sure communicating is the most important thing, and making sure you follow up with people after. That's hugely important. Even if you can't help them with the issue, communicating and following up with them is the most important thing.
I think what's very, very important is if there's a parent sees a problem, in the classroom or in the playground or whatever, I would, as a committee member, ask them, have you spoken directly to their teacher or to the person who was involved? Have you spoken to that first person that's in charge, rather than jumping up the ladder to the school committee, right? Why wouldn't we try to work out with clarity first to speak to those people? Because the school committee here is for putting together policy, enacting policy, checking on policies that have been in place to make sure that we update them. And also, again, budgetary titles and topics. Very important. We need to keep an eye on the budgetary items. Our main importance is to make sure that our work as a committee is on behalf of the students, okay? And not that a student comes and complains to me, so I'm going to bring it to the school committee. If someone comes and complains to me, and again, passionate about kids, I would love to fix everything. But my first duty to this committee and to the school and to the town of Acton is to be sure that that person still feels heard first by the person who they need to speak to. And then if they don't get what they're expecting, go to the next person. And if it makes it up to the school committee, then yes, that's where we would need to hear it. But again, we come back to transparency. I think it's our importance that we need to be, as a committee, very transparent. And again, we have one employee. Our main employee is our principal/superintendent at this time, because they do all the other hiring and bring it to the committee. But our first responsibility for hiring would be that top administrator. So again, transparency, I think, is key. Thank you.
So as you've heard everybody else say, the two main priorities of the school committee are rules and money. We do the policies, and I've been on the policy committee for 3.5 years. A silly example that really is not huge in the grand scheme of the school, we recently revised the dress code to allow spaghetti strap tops. Again, that sounds silly, but you have boys who don't really have restrictions on how wide their straps can be. And is it fair for girls to have restrictions on how wide their straps could be? And people on the school committee may or may not have felt that was something we should have updated. But what we do as a school committee is we talk about it and we collaborate, and the bottom line is it good for the students? No matter what we personally feel about something, if it's good for the students, we're going to vote for it.
Hi, Kelly Collins, at our committee. So throughout the pandemic, concerns about children's mental health have rightly dominated many conversations of school board committees. So with recently the CDC came out with a very disturbing fact that 24% of children from 4 to 11 years old have anxiety and issues upon that. And ADHD is on the rise, as we all know. As an emergency room nurse, I can rightfully tell you that my emergency room is filled daily with kids from the small age of 5 to 12 years old who are suffering from anxiety disorders. How, as a school board member, are you going to help address the behavioral health adolescents under your schools?
And Catherine?
That's very important, and I feel like maybe we could address it more in the classrooms. I know we, talk about feelings and stuff. Maybe we could just talk about it more, but I don't know, how are you doing today? I don't know, because mental health is so important, and I haven't really dealt with that, but it's so important just to ask people how they're doing. Maybe take an extra few minutes just to see if any of the kids are really, if you notice they're really sad, maybe just try to talk to them more, and just maybe you could refer them to the counselor, and maybe, I don't know, I like the town hall meeting where we, in Lowell, they did town hall meetings where the parents could go to the meetings and address bigger issues and have the superintendent, the school board there, just get the community more involved like that. That was awesome as a parent.
Yes, mental health is very important. I think, I don't know if that's on that survey that I mentioned earlier or not, that they get for the middle school, but really it could start younger. But maybe surveying our kids anonymously just to see how they are feeling, on what their stress level is, and how we can get feedback from the students of how we can help them, what would make them feel better in the classroom, or what is bothering them. So just getting feedback from the kids, I think, is important, and from the parents. I feel like we're not really asked a lot about our middle school students from the school, and I think that is important, and I think parent input should be asked of more, and just getting feedback from teachers as well, as if they're seeing anything concerning in the classrooms. Yeah, that's.
I have a faculty friend of mine who would begin every class, and his middle school students would come in, and they would take their seats, and they would begin every class with one word, and everyone was asked to close their eyes, sit in a circle, probably sit in the circle, and then close their eyes. Close their eyes and go around the circle after about 30 seconds of just silence. Then open your eyes and one by one give a word for how you're feeling at that time. And the feedback at the end of the first year of doing that from students was that they felt in that class, they felt safe to be able to speak about how they were feeling, because it was one word. It wasn't a phrase. It was one word. And they felt free to be able to express themselves in that class. So that at the end of that class, if that faculty member felt that there was a student who might need a conversation, he would just write on a Post-it note, "Do you want to talk?" and just hand it to them later when no one was looking. And either they would come and talk or they wouldn't. But they knew that someone was watching out for them. Someone actually cared, and they were consistent. It was day in, day out that practice happened. And it took no more than 5 minutes from the class. I mean, that's something that's very, very easy to implement. In fact, I would go so far as we should be implementing that in our daily lives as just individuals. But I digress. So I think that's very important. Also, to be able to have teams, like team meetings. So you have cohort groups. So in those meetings, you can have, identifiable kids, which, parents don't like to hear identifiable kids, but they're kids that you're going to be giving some extra attention to, whether it's they just want more attention, or maybe they don't want more attention, and that's why you're looking at them. Maybe they're sad, maybe they have something going on at home, but those special team meetings, maybe that could be part of those cohort meetings that could happen. So I would love to see that implemented, and again, it takes very little time, and I know as an educator, I hated giving up classroom time, but for that, it's absolutely very important. So that would be my spin. Thank you.
So the parents who are here probably know this, but the non-parent or the people who don't have students currently in the school might not. Our school counselor does go into the classrooms, I don't know if it's weekly or every couple of weeks, and she does what she calls guidance. So it helps the students identify their emotions and identify constructive ways to express those emotions. And that often comes back to the parents. So you can tell that it's working, because when it gets ridiculously hot out, I get snappy. And so often when it's hot, I hear, "Mommy, do you need to count to 10? Okay, yes, I do need to count to 10. Let me go punch a pillow, please. But aside from the guidance counselor, everyone in our building is involved in our students. From the teachers and the ed techs, the administrators know every student's name. Even the cafeteria workers know our students. And the custodian tells the cringiest dad jokes to my kids, but they love it. They're like, "Oh, guess what joke Mr. Wood told me this week?" It's like, "Oh, great. We're going to have to tell Grandpa, because Grandpa loves those jokes too." So I think we need to encourage our staff, all the staff, the custodians, the lunch ladies, the ed techs, the gym teacher, everybody, to keep an eye out for anybody who might be off this week, and empower them to talk to the student's direct teacher, because they have such a bond with their teachers. So if the ed tech down the hall sees kids having a bad day, if they don't know that student super well, they just know their name and they just know they're a little bit off, they can talk to their teacher, and the teacher can even check in with them, or the school counselor can check in with them. So I think empowering all the staff, I hate talking like this, empowering all the staff to be able to work together collaboratively to keep an eye on our kids would be a fantastic thing.
Hey, Kelly.
Hey.
Hey. Jackson Bowe. And so, yeah, mental health is something that is top of mind, kind of getting back to, part of military experience, and that is something that is very topical, all right, for me. And so, early on, just from a personal standpoint, trying to destigmatize the seeking of mental health as not something that you go just when you need it because you are having a breakdown of some kind, but actually trying to incorporate it as a part of overall health. I've actually reached out to the counselor when the boys were in kindergarten to see if they could set up regularly scheduled how you doings, basically, is what they were. And they are, and basically the whole idea, this is just my own personal approach, all right, is to make it so they get their wellness checks at the doctor. They go get, how tall are you, breathe in, breathe out, and they also get, a mental check, and hopefully that technique will basically allow them to it just becomes part of their routine as they grow up. With respect to the school, I think one of the best things that the committee does, having been to several of the meetings, is when they bring in some of the educators and staff to get reports on various topics. And that's kind of how I would see it. I don't necessarily, the environment in Acton is unbelievable. And so trying to basically implement too many policies that would burden them down, I don't see as being productive when I would want to leverage their expertise in how they approach children. I would want to hear what they're seeing, hear what they're doing, and then see if they have any suggestions. Leverage their expertise. If there are problem areas, we can be very pinpointed and targeted in creating policies to aid them, not to burden them, if it's required, as it pertains to mental health and every other thing.
Thank you very, very much. We have come up to a little over an hour. So unless there's any other pressing questions, we'll probably move on to the next part of this phase. I want to thank you all for really thoughtful questions, and of course the answers that you've heard have been very informed and well thought out, and we have a great set of candidates here. So you'll be able to make some closing remarks. Let's start with Terry and move down the line.
Again, thank you for your time. You didn't have to be here, but you chose to come, and I really appreciate that. I just wanted you to know that I love the kids here in Acton. I always have. They're a special group of kids because they come from a special group of adults. We're adults who just make things work. Even if we disagree, we are adults about it, and we can go on with our daily lives, and that's what you're teaching to your kids. And so I would love to continue that good work that's happening on the school committee right now. It's a committee that's working like a well-oiled machine, and they don't always agree, but they agree to work together, and I would like to be a part of that, and I would thank you for your vote. Thank you.
Liz.
Yes, thank you for coming out, and thank you for everyone that's watching virtually. And I would really appreciate your vote, and I look forward to hopefully working on the school committee and making things better at the school than they already are, which they are pretty awesome already, and following in my mother's footsteps and hopefully being on the school committee. Thank you.
Thank you for being here tonight. I'm very nervous, but I'm very excited. I really want to be part of the school board committee. I feel like I just want to do it for my children. And I'm very new to it. I wish I had a lot more qualifications. I don't, but I'm just going to be me. I just really want to be part of the school board. I can add my little twist to it. Just want to do it for my children. Thank you.
Thanks for being here on a Thursday night at 8:20. All right, it's unbelievable. This is one of the reasons I want to be on the committee, is because of how involved the community is in every aspect, from the time the kids are kids all the way to when they grow up, right, and want to start their businesses and want to grow their families here. We want to create that environment, and the fact that everyone is here and so concerned about that just makes me want to do what I can. And so I appreciate your consideration in my bid for school committee, and if given the chance, I will absolutely do everything I can to improve it. So thanks.
Again, like everybody else said, thank you all so much for coming. Thank you all for watching. We have an amazing school, an amazing town. And so many of our staff members actually grew up here in Acton, and they came back to teach here, to work here. My son wants to be a teacher in Acton. And I would love to be reelected to the school committee for another term to continue the great work that we're doing for our school. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Let's go to break and transition right into good job. Thank you very much. candidates, and start right in with John. You're up first.
All right. Good evening, everybody, and thank you all for coming out, and thank you all for staying, and thank you all for watching. My name's John Dennekamp, and I'm a retired toolmaker and machinist. My wife Hope and I moved here about 3 years ago, and we couldn't be happier. We've got our own little cabin in the woods, which is very peaceful. When we moved here, I had absolutely no intention of getting involved in anything. And then one day, was reached out to by Jim Driscoll, who had a request to help deliver buckets of sand to people who couldn't get out because of an ice storm. And we did it. And through Jim, I learned how to quietly serve the community. And I'm forever grateful to him for doing that for me. And from there, joined the rec committee and started coaching baseball. Realized how much I loved working with the kids and their parents, and went on to coach soccer and basketball too. And still do it and enjoy every minute of it. And Hope and I also regularly volunteer for things in town. We volunteer for the Neighbors Helping Neighbors events, the Thanksgiving, the Bean Supper. We do the Acton Food Pantry food pickups once a month in Sanford and bring it here. What else we do? We, along with several other residents in town, we have helped organize the annual town cleanup, and that's been very rewarding to do, see the town get better. I also work with the Three Rivers Land Trust doing trail maintenance here in Acton and surrounding towns. And you might be able to tell being in the spotlight is not my favorite thing to do. I like to work behind the scenes. I like to do the work, not be the face. But I've decided that this is important and I'd like to do this. And I don't come with an agenda. I am here to keep Acton, whatever you think of Acton, we think of it as a little bit of paradise, and we want to keep it that way. And if you ask me what the most important parts of the town are, the first would be the school. Without a good, healthy school, the town would fail. Any town would fail. Also, would be the town infrastructure. We've got, our lakes, we've got our wooded areas that make Acton, and town government, public safety, transfer station, library, everything, the roads. I'd like to
Excuse me, speak up a little bit, they can't hear back here.
I'd like to see all of those things continue being taken care of. And I know it comes with a price, and I think if we can do that fiscally responsibly, then we'll be in a good place. And I don't need to tell you what makes Acton Acton. You all know, if there's somebody in town that needs something, someone's down on their luck, someone's had an accident, the whole town rallies around. Whether it's you, your neighbor, or our town administrator and select people. So I just want to continue that for the future. Thank you.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Tom Gertie. I've actually had a home here in Acton for about 22 years. And my wife Kathy and I both lived in Rochester, not too far from here, until our mid-30s, at which time I took a position down in the Boston area and decided the furthest south I could move is southern New Hampshire. So, but now I've been retired for 4 years, and I've never really had been involved in politics in any way. Between my commute and my career, quite frankly, and my family, I've never felt I could find the time. Now that I'm retired, shortly after retiring, I decided that I really wanted to get involved in the community. I wanted to get to know people. I wanted to be able to take the experiences that I've had over my career and my life and see if I couldn't bring those in some way to benefit the community. I've always worked in nonprofits. To me, a for-profit setting just doesn't get me up in the morning. There's something about having a mission and a service purpose that I think is very rewarding and motivating for me. Since retiring 4 years ago, I've now for 2.5 years been a selectman. I'm up for re-election. I was a member of the Warrant and Finance Committee during that, shortly before that, and also on the Capital Planning Committee. My work experience is about 45 years as the financial manager. That's what I do. My background is finance, and I served as a chief financial officer for a private university in the Boston area for 25 years, and it was a large organization. It had, over $3 billion in assets. It had $1 billion operating budget, $100 million capital budget. And as the chief financial officer, I was responsible for overseeing all of the institution's finances, from accounting, budget development, budget management, cash management, managed the external audit firms, dealt with all the grants and contracts for the institution, and purchasing, long-term planning. And for about 15 years, I also managed the investment portfolio, which was over $700 million. So I have a background in investments as well. I've served on a variety of boards in leadership positions over the years. When I retired, I sort of withdrew from all of those. I couldn't take driving into Boston anymore, so I felt it was a good time to get off those boards. But I think having the opportunity to bring my skill set, which is finance, is very helpful. We're now going to have 5 members of the board. Each of us have different backgrounds. Each of us will have different sort of expertise and an ability to contribute. I'm not particularly knowledgeable about roads. There are a lot of roads in town, but we have people on our board that do know roads. I know enough about them to be dangerous, but I do understand the finances. And that's a big part, I think, of management in the town. What have I done over the last 2.5 years? Basically, as I said, there are 5 members of the board, and it's difficult to say that you individually have done anything completely. You have to work within the context of the board. There are now 5 members there. You have to present your ideas and your concepts and work through those with the board. But in the end, it's ultimately the board that makes those decisions, not a single individual. But your own thoughts and abilities can help move that board in a particular direction. And so I'd just like to summarize a few of them. One of the things we did was we decided to hire an engineering firm. Now, I think we had a lot of capital project funding going on in the town, and some of the projects were hard to just get going. And it seemed to me that we needed some outside help to sort of help us manage these projects and move them forward. And I think since doing that, we've seen some progress in our capital projects in the town that had been previously appropriated through town meeting, actually moving forward. Spent a lot of time, is not surprising, in the finance and accounting area. Really reorganizing the accounting and budgeting practices of the town. We created a new budget process this year, which I think, it used to be that our budgets were really finalized in May. Well, this year they were finalized in March. And we started the budget process early. I think we put a good process in place with the Warrant and Finance Committee so that we could actually look at these budgets together, as opposed to the selectmen doing them, then Warrant and Finance, and sort of going back and forth. There were joint sessions of Select Board and Warrant and Finance Committee that really allowed everybody to see what was going on, so that as the Select Board would take a position on the budget, the Warrant and Finance would at least would understand what it is we're trying to accomplish. So I think that sped the process up. That budget process this year led to a 3.5% reduction in the municipal budget. I'm not sure when that was last done, but it's been, I suspect, a number of years that the municipal budget actually went down. And so we're very proud of that. I think all of the selectmen contributed to that, along with the department heads. They all were asked to identify ways in which they could cut their budget, and they did so, and so they all contributed to that. We reorganized the accounting office, which I think has led to an improved set of internal controls to make sure we had good checks and balances. I don't say that suggesting there was anything wrong. It's just good business, that you make sure that you've got good checks and balances in the accounting office, so that everything is properly accounted for. And that there would be backup if somebody were to leave. We've had some turnover in that position over the last couple of years, and I think we're now in a little better position with regard to that. We've got improved financial reporting that is going on throughout the year. Warrant and Finance Committee is getting reports, budget to actuals every month in a very simple to understand format where you can spend 5 minutes on it and really see if you got any problems. At least that's what I do with it, and I think it's very helpful. Town's cash, we had a fair amount of cash, and it was not being invested well. Well, we spent some time, we had public hearings and a special town meeting. We got a new investment policy put in place. We now have monies invested in basically treasury notes, which are very safe securities, but in the prior year, I think we earned less than $20,000 in investment income. This year, we'll earn more than $200,000. So that's a significant source of revenue for the town now. I think having an understanding of the town's finances, what our budget performance is, what our reserve positions are, how much excess might we have, and begin some discussions about how that excess might be utilized or saved for the future. I think those are topics that have come up pretty significantly over the last year and a half, and I think the town has benefited from that. I was a strong advocate for combining the municipal town meeting and the school town meeting. It seems to me that when people are asked to vote on a budget, which eventually ends up setting the tax rate, that people ought to know at the time they're voting what that total budget looks like and not do it in segments. And the school board was supportive of doing that, and I think it led to a single town meeting. It only took us 2.5 hours to get it done, which I'm still trying to figure out how we did that. And it was very effective. But at that meeting, we were able to present, because we had both budget, the entire town budget there, be able to present to people, well, you know, if everything here gets approved, this is what your tax rate is going to be. So I don't think that's been done before. So that when people were approving the budget in April, they had an indication of what their tax rate was going to be next year. And I think that's important for people to understand, so that if there are concerns about the tax increase, they could deal with that. The other thing was there was clarity about what our reserve balances were. There's been a lot of discussion about reserve balances over the last year to year and a half, and I think there's increased sort of understanding of that, but that information was all put out at the town meeting as well. So, why vote for me? I think they're, in many ways, the same things that have sort of characterized my career. Integrity. As a CFO, if you don't have integrity, you don't have anything. And so having that integrity and being able to demonstrate that is very important. Transparency, especially in a nonprofit or in a municipal setting, you've got to be transparent with what's going on. People have to feel as though it's an open book and the information is flowing clearly. I have significant financial management experience. Honesty, I try to be honest, as honest as I can be, and approachability. I have office hours a couple times a month here. People do come in and talk to me, or I'll receive phone calls, and I think that's important for a selectman, that people know that if they have an issue, it's how to reach out to a select person and get contact. So, thank you very much.
How do I follow that? My name is Roland Waterhouse. This is my second run for a selectman. I said I wasn't going to do it again, but why not? I moved to Acton in 1966 when my parents bought their house down on 12th Street. I am currently the co-owner of that house, as well as the owner of the house that I live in up on Birchwood Lane, where I live with my wife, my handicapped father, and somewhat handicapped son. As far as my experience, I went to school in Sanford, graduated high school, joined the Navy, and spent 23 years in the Navy. I have a significant background in the military. I've dealt with everything from ships to computers to supply. How does that transform into being a selectman? I don't know. As far as the duties of a selectman, I don't know exactly what those are either. And I don't think anybody that is currently sitting on the select board knew what they were getting into prior to actually getting into it. What I can tell the town and the town people is there's nothing that I will say or do behind your back that I wouldn't do in front of you. I believe in honesty, I believe in respect, and treating people with dignity. Beyond that, that's all I can say. I appreciate everybody coming out, I appreciate everybody's attendance, all the people that may be watching from home, and I hope there's quite a few. That's all I got.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll open it up to questions. Whoa, no questions. Oh, whoa, thank you.
Can't resist that question.
Open it up.
Thank you all for running, and I know it's a difficult job. I believe we have a pretty substantial and important zoning ordinance. Tom has answered this question already, so he knows what's coming. So, on the Milton Mills Road, there are two properties that are basically a disaster, which is not itself. I don't mean a couple of junk vehicles, I mean big piles of garbage. It's visible from the road, huge pile. My question to you is, as a selectman, what do you feel like your role is in getting something done? We're talking about public health issues here, I think. So that's the question. What's your role in enforcing the zoning ordinance, especially you're talking big piles of straight out garbage? So, thank you.
Tom, you're up first.
I'm up first. Thank you. This is a subject we've talked about as a board. Exactly what the role is of the planning board, the code enforcement officer, and the select board. I think enforcement of the existing zoning ordinances initially reside with the code enforcement officer, as the title would suggest. And the code enforcement officer ultimately reports to the Board of Selectmen. So obviously the board has a role to play there. The planning board, what I think their responsibility is to actually create and end up revising the ordinances on a going forward basis. But it's the code enforcement officer who has the responsibility to make sure that the codes that have been established are being followed. Exactly how they do that has been sort of a running debate, I will admit. Should they be proactive and going out around the town and looking for violations? Should they wait until they get referrals from neighbors or individuals that have a situation that they'd like to report and have followed up? My belief is the latter is a better approach. I don't think we want our code enforcement officer going around looking at people's properties and looking for code violations. I don't think that would be healthy or wise, or it would be, I think, very disruptive. But I think if somebody has a problem, like Richard, you may feel that you have a problem, I think that's what the code enforcement officer is for. And my belief is that he would look into that. He would have a responsibility if there was a written complaint filed to provide a written response. That would be his responsibility. And if there are matters that are sort of still in dispute after that, that theoretically could come to the select board for referral. We have not dealt with any of those, to the best of my knowledge, in my 2.5 years. I think the code officer has done a very nice job of sort of resolving those problems among the parties, which in a community like this, I think is always the best way for it to be done. But if you got a problem, I would suggest you contact the code office.
Roll.
Definitely, I totally agree with Tom's assessment. It, without a doubt, falls under the code enforcement officer's purview to enforce the ordinance. As to whether or not the select board actually has any say in what happens after the code enforcement officer tries to enforce the ordinance, I don't know. That could end up in civil litigation. That's my answer. It's totally the code enforcement officer's job to take care of enforcing that ordinance. Just like it is junk cars, unregistered cars, etc. You have to report it. If you don't report it, nothing's going to get done about it.
Did you report that?
I'm through.
But you didn't know you had another answer, obviously. Go ahead.
I agree with both Tom and Roland. I think the code enforcement officer is probably the first person to look at it. I also think we've got a health officer, and that falls under that also if it's a health hazard. I don't know how much the Board of Selectmen have the teeth to put into that. It would be somebody that has more jurisdiction than the selectmen, and those two people, I think, would be the right choice to go to the properties and assess them.
If I could just add a little bit to that, one thought that I had. You know, when I think about the tricky ones, what will sometime happen is we'll refer the matter to council, get an opinion. What do they think about this circumstance? And that will provide support for the code enforcement officer to proceed. He'll have backup with perhaps something in writing from council, and that will help him in a position, create a position where hopefully he can resolve the matter, and it goes no further.
Great. Since he had another shot, any other?
Good.
Okay. Question?
You know, I'm not sure how far the code enforcement officer has any liability related to this. I remember a few years ago, a lady was sitting here when we were voting and asked to please sign this petition to try to clean up these yards. I live between 3 of these, I call them junk yards. And at the top of the county road, that's posted now. The other thing is, you know, I feel so sorry for people that have lost their dogs and animals, but every telephone pole has a sign there. I think after a period of time, people should take them down. Also, we use telephone poles for everybody's painting business, car business. I mean, the place looks like a junkyard. There isn't a road you go down in Acton when you don't see something like that. But I don't think there's anything that the code enforcement officer can do to make people clean up their yards.
Do you have a question?
That's what well, that too. I know, okay, that's my question. You don't have any capacity of that, right? I mean, you could say go to the code enforcement officer. I don't think he has anything. Why don't you guys come up with something?
Rolling.
Wow.
Okay, thank you, Jeanette.
Yeah, really, thanks, Jeanette. I greatly appreciate that.
You're always right.
There are a lot of things that are posted on telephone poles. I don't have anything posted on telephone.
No, I know, you don't.
Do I think that, those things need to be taken care of? Absolutely. How are they going to be taken care of? Damn, that's a good question. I really don't know. I could run around and pull them all down if you'd like me to. I'd be more than happy to. You have a code enforcement officer who's supposed to take care of the ordinances within the town. Is there an ordinance that deals with posting things on telephone poles? I don't think there is. Is there an ordinance about junk? Oh, yeah. I believe, if I remember correctly, it's been a while since I've read the different ordinances within the town. I used to be a little bit more up on them when I was more involved prior to my little respite here of 2 or 3 years. I believe there is an ordinance that says you're not supposed to have any more than 3 unregistered vehicles on your property. Otherwise, it's a junkyard. We have a certain number of people who are licensed, such as Larry Doyle, used to be Pat Doyle. And I don't know of any others right off the top of my head within the bounds of Acton. However, I know of quite a few places that have cars that are sitting there unregistered and in various disrepair, and the chances are they're not going to be repaired. I could report those to the code enforcement officer, but I don't like that policy of, if I make a report to the code enforcement officer, guess what? My name has to be on the report. Okay? That didn't used to be. That got changed probably 5 or 6 years ago. Maybe a little bit longer, but I don't think so. So, if you report something, your name has to go on the report. Will it get something done? Possibly.
Yeah, as far as junk cars in yards, don't like that at all. We came from a neighborhood that had that, and same thing Roland said. Your name was on the report, and who wants that? As far as the telephone poles, I don't think the town has any say on what goes on the poles, and has a jurisdiction to take it down, because the town doesn't own the poles. Those are all owned by CMP or the utility companies.
Just courtesy.
I totally agree. They don't need to be up there for 100 days. As soon as this election is over, I think the 3 of us, or all of us, will be out there the very next day pulling our signs.
You got 10 days. You have 10 days to remove the sign.
Yeah, I'll get that right away.
By the state statute.
But I agree with that. I'd love to see people come back and take those things down. I don't know that it's up to the board or the code enforcement officer to do that.
I do recall at least 1 or maybe 2 instances where debris in a person's yard was addressed in town. I believe our code, it all starts with putting something in writing. And if I understand it correctly, it needs to be in writing in order to satisfy freedom of information request. If somebody makes a complaint about someone, they have the right to find out who made that complaint. And I believe that's why the individual's name is on those forms. So we're simply complying with state law. But it all starts with putting it in writing. And when the code enforcement officer gets something in writing, he has to investigate it, and he has to provide a written response. And in the 1 or 2 instances that I'm aware of, that's the process that led to it being addressed. Now, I can't speak about what happened many years ago, but for the last couple of years, I think the board has been really focused on this and ensuring that the code officer is in fact following up on these items. So I think there is process, and if as far as the signs go, I don't know if anything can be done. My guess is you start with the planning board. That would be, I don't know, others may have a better opinion, but if you don't see an ordinance, or if you see one that is inadequate, go to the planning board. And they are the ones that ought to be able to assess that and determine whether or not they want to propose a change.
Well, I think by now, everybody knows where I live, and everybody knows who's around me.
That's not going to do it.
I know.
And I don't know where you live, Jeanette.
I don't know where you live.
I'm lucky I know where I live.
Questions? Thank you. Joyce Bakshi. It's been said here this evening, the town's growing. One thing from my personal experiences, our comprehensive plan is out of date. It was great for when it was written, but it does go back more than 22, 24 years. Would you be in favor of creating a committee with, and I hate to say it because I do believe our select board is up to here with work, a committee of citizens and a couple of selectmen, or at least one, in bringing our comp plan up to date. Our comp plan tells us everything we need to know is for future planning, capital expenses that we might not need today, but we darn well might need them in 10 years. So would you be in favor of creating a board kind of as soon as possible to work on a new comprehensive plan? That's my question.
Thank you. John? Well, I don't know anything about the old comprehensive plan. I know you've talked about it in meetings before, Joyce. If it's that out of date and the town is growing that fast, I don't see, with the right people on the committee, that it would be a bad thing to look at, because the town is growing. Is it growing too fast? I don't know. But I would, if I was on the board, I would be open to having a discussion with the other board members and probably the planning board about something like that.
I have read the comprehensive plan, and while it has a variety of different subjects in it, for those of you who may not have read one, for me, the principal purpose is to identify what the town sees for itself in its future in terms of growth, business development, housing. How do they want that development to occur over a longer period of time? To me, that's the most useful. And so that aspect of it, I think, for that aspect, I think there's value in updating or redoing the, I don't think it's an update, it has to be redone, given how old it is. We will now have 5 selectmen. We used to have 3. With 5 selectmen, my own personal opinion is we have some additional resource that can be brought to bear to perhaps get a project like that off the ground. Exactly whether it's a committee, how to get it staffed or on it, I think that's if the select board is interested in moving forward with that, we could certainly talk about it. And I think there are probably a number of different options how to do it. A committee may be one, but I would talk to some other towns who would probably have updated theirs, ask them what worked well, what didn't work well, how did they do it, and see if we can come up with an approach that makes sense for Acton.
You done, Tom?
I stopped.
I'm just trying to give you all the time you need. I don't know that the comprehensive plan is still a state requirement. I believe the state dropped that requirement. However, do I think a comprehensive plan would be beneficial for the town? Most assuredly. As far as getting a comprehensive plan started, that would be something that probably would require quite a bit of effort on the board's behalf. I served on the Warrant Finance Committee, I've served on the Capital Improvement Committee. I've served on the Cemetery Committee and the Zoning Board of Appeals. Committees are a good thing, but sometimes too much is expected of a committee, and sometimes the results of committees are not followed or just discarded. Comprehensive plan probably would be an outstanding idea for the town. We are growing rapidly. There are at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 construction sites just down the H Road going toward Acton Ridge. New homes. There's a lot of building going on in the town. There's a fair amount of new business in town, and you know, it's growth. It's more money for the town, but it's, you know, growth, and it needs to be dealt with. So I would support a comprehensive plan.
Thank you.
Hello, gentlemen. So like Tom said in his opening statement, the town has a lot of money invested, and that money is earning more money. Let's pretend that the town voted to give you, our selectmen, all the money to do whatever you wanted to benefit our town. What would you do to benefit our town with all the money?
Who's first?
John, that's yours.
No, that's yours.
No, I just did.
Oh, you did? Okay, is it me?
I already
Okay,
practiced.
fine, thank you. One of the things that I'm most concerned about is our roads. I'm going to put aside the school, because I think the school has its own process for identifying what its needs are. And so I'm going to set that aside and deal with the municipal needs. We have 50 miles of road in town. We're spending around $500,000 a year on road maintenance, if you will, for tarring, etc. We recently did a road that we reclaimed. I think it was $250,000 for 2 miles. That just doesn't add up to me as an adequate funding for roads going forward. Where I worked previously, we had a lot of square footage, and it was always a challenge to figure out how much you wanted to invest each year. And there was always some other priority. Rather than dealing with a roof or a window or whatever, you provide the money for raises, new positions, new programs, whatever. The same can be said in a town with roads. So I would want to make sure that we don't end up with a large, what I'll call deferred maintenance problem with our roads. And find that it's a hole too big to get out of without some serious consequences on the tax rate. It's one of the reasons why we've done a road assessment, and still continuing to develop that road assessment that would identify what we need in resources to maintain our roads going forward. It's our biggest asset with 50 miles of road, and it requires a lot of care and feeding each and every year. So I know the fire department has its list of things it would like. There are people that would like to see a new facility built here, and we tear down the old fire station for some kind of a meeting room of some sort. Those are all things that I think could be considered, but for me, it's the roads. I'm done.
Thank you. I don't want to overstep myself, Tom. I would have to concur with Tom. A wish list for the town. If I had all the money that we had invested currently, which I believe is somewhere between 4 and 5 million.
That was my understanding.
The roads could eat that up very, very quickly. Just the current project, I believe that Will has you can correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, for the H Road, he's doing, what, a mile? And it's $400 and some odd thousand dollars? I think paving is extremely expensive. We have a lot of roads in the town of Acton that have some serious problems. Unfortunately, we have a lot of private roads in the town that are going to see nothing. And I don't necessarily agree with that. Unfortunately, the state came out quite a few years back now and said that you couldn't spend municipal money on private roads. If you look at the town of Acton, and actually you could look at other towns surrounding Acton, there are quite a few people who own property in the town of Acton that is lake property and generates a hell of a tax base. We get a lot of money from non-resident people, and they are not necessarily getting the best for their money. There's not a lot I can do about that. The state deems what you can and can't do as far as municipal money is concerned. But I definitely agree with Tom as far as we don't need the roads to be in such bad shape that there's no way we'd ever catch up with repairing them all. The Hopper Road, big problem with the Hopper Road, from one end to the other, all the way down to the dam. There's a part of that road that doesn't really have a base. So I agree with Tom. Your turn, John.
I have to say, I do agree with Tom and Roland about the roads. If our roads fall apart, there's not a lot we can do in town. However, CJ, if you're giving me an unlimited budget.
Take all the money.
All right.
What are you gonna do with all the money?
Well, one of the first things I would like to do is expand the library. That would be one of the first things on my list. Another thing on my list would be to renovate Town Hall. It needs some work, and I think it's money well spent. Maybe we can push out the wall. I don't know. And what else would we need? We could use, Tom said, a meeting room, a community center, senior center combination type thing. Would be really nice to have. Whether that is expanding this room or a whole separate building, I don't know. But for me, the roads to the library would be my top two places to spend your fortune.
Give us the checkbook.
Any other questions? Is everybody so tired? We got one question.
Hi, Bernard Berger, East Shore Drive. I want to go back to the issue of comprehensive report planning. The reason that I'm going back is last year I asked the candidates whether they would commit to advancing that, and the two that were elected did commit to that. Now that we have a 5-person board, I want to ask each of you whether you will commit to advancing that so that I will know whether it's likely that's going to happen or not. In addition to the concerns Joyce raised, one of the findings that the planning board is required to issue when they approve a new project is it in keeping with the comprehensive plan? How do you issue that finding? I mean, you can, but a report that is like 20 years old? How relevant is that? Also, the issue that Roland brought up about all of the people, the majority of Acton's tax base is generated by people who don't live here, so they can't vote here. So where is their voice? If we did updated the comprehensive plan, they could be surveyed and they would have a voice. So my question to each of you is, will you commit to advancing the updating of the comprehensive plan for the town of Acton? And if not, why? Thank you.
I got it. Yes, most assuredly. Do I think that the non-residents in the town who pay a large percentage of the tax base to the town deserve a voice? Most assuredly. I couldn't believe it when the state said you can't spend any more money on private roads, and they stopped plowing private roads in the wintertime. I told my father he was crazy. And then the road didn't get plowed. Found out he wasn't crazy. But most assuredly, the town definitely should have a comprehensive plan, especially if the planning board is supposed to be issuing permits for building, etc., that are in compliance with the comprehensive plan. There are some things that I think need to be changed as far as the planning board is concerned. From what I understand, the planning board is supposed to elect a new chair every year. They didn't do that. Same chair. And I'm not throwing a rock at the individual who is the chair at all. But there are a lot of guidelines that are not being followed. That's one of the reasons why I decided to try and run for selectman, because there are quite a few things that aren't necessarily followed by policies, ordinances, and state statutes. And that's all I'm going to say.
I've seen lots of building in town, like Roland said, H Road, lots on Young's Ridge.
Yes.
Hopper.
Yes.
So if we're growing that quickly and there's going to be that many more families in town, then I absolutely, Bernie, I would pledge to do that.
I'm glad I went third because I had a chance to think about this. So, there's a lot of growth happening around us, which eventually is going to catch up with us. Everything is moving north. You see people from incredible locations commuting into Boston each and every day, and they're going further and further north because of the price of housing and so on. So it's happening all around us. It's beginning to happen here. And I think it's incredibly important that we, as a community, as much as we can create a consensus, know what it is we want to see happen to our town over time, because things are going to change. It's inevitable. I am supportive of a comprehensive plan, and I will commit to supporting one. But I also want to make sure that it's done in a way that I think will end up with a document that is useful for the town. And depending on how we approach that, I quite frankly might not have confidence that that's going to happen. So I would be concerned about how it's done. So that would be my only caveat. But I do think it's very important for Acton at this time to have it.
Great, thank you. And again, thank you, the audience, for very thoughtful questions. And thank you for the candidates for equally thoughtful answers. Brings us to the end of the show, and we'll let Roland, if you want to leave some more remarks.
More remarks. I'm not a very eloquent speaker.
Then you could just say no.
I am loud. I am loud, and nobody has any problems hearing me. Okay? I appreciate everybody coming out. I appreciate everybody asking the questions that they've asked. Some of the questions are very difficult to deal with, but I certainly will try to deal with each and every one should I be elected. All I can do is ask. If you don't elect me, it hasn't cost me a dime. Have a good night.
Tom?
Again, thanks everyone for coming out tonight, and for those of you that are viewing it. I think this is very important to understand who's running for our school board and our selectmen. I think I'm known as someone who can bring people together. Having worked at a university, it is an incredibly divisive place. With multiple schools, faculties, everyone having their own pet projects, and as the finance guy, everyone's looking for money because money makes the world go round. And I try not to say no, but to find a way of saying yes. It may not get people exactly what they want, but usually there's something of value in what they're asking for. That's the way I approach the job. I think it works really well in a community like this. I've enjoyed being selectman this past term. I look forward to being selectman in the next term. With your vote, I hope to get there, and thank you very much.
Thank you all again for coming out and for everybody at home watching. I'm not a politician, but I work hard, I listen to people, and I would pledge to listen to everybody's opinion about what they thought the town needed, whether I agree with them or not. If you bring an idea, I will bring it to the board and discuss it with them. All I can give you is my word that I'll listen and do what I can. Acton is home. Acton is the perfect spot for us, and I just want to help out. So thank you all for coming.
On behalf of myself and
Thank you.
thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Nice job.